Martay, how are you doing today?
You're so sweet. I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad that you're here because, well, the audience doesn't know this, but you were a Wait or Wait alumnus or
Yeah.
alumni. And we had this terrible plugin when we started the show last year, and we had all these glitches happening, and your fans were not able to vote for you. But let me tell you, your fans showed up for you. Like when you were like, "Hey, my fans can't vote," and I'm like, "Oh no, we're trying to figure it all out." And when we looked at the back end of like the traffic, they like showed up in mass. They were like, "Why can't we vote?" And so I was like, okay, this is redemption time. This is our time to make it up. So for all the people that don't know who you are, tell us a little bit about you and how you came to know Christ.
Yeah, that's a great question. And thank you guys for having me again. Yeah, that was such a tafu, but we're here now. I'm Martay. Man, how I came to know Christ. I came to know him. It's been like 20 years now that I've known the Lord, which is wild because I didn't grow up in a Christian household or anything like that. But I'm from Northern California. I live in Kansas City with my husband and our family out here, and it's been a wild ride to like getting to know him and not my husband, the Lord, getting to know the Lord and coming to where I'm at right now. So I got to know him like as simple as possible. A friend at school just came up to me and was like, "Do you want to come to church with me?" And in California, I don't know, I'm not from like a Bible Belt area, right? At all. Like, so church was like, who does that? Like, I don't want to
Yeah.
go. So I went to church and I literally felt the presence of God that day. It was overwhelming. Like, I'm looking at my friends and they're all like kind of like giddy and talking, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like, do I cry? I just like was overcome. And that's before all these songs started coming out, like about his presence and stuff. So I really didn't know how to explain it. And then I just needed more. So I kept going. I brought my mom with me because I was like, I don't want to go alone. I didn't really know anything about church culture, nothing. I was so brand new. And I was just like, wow, like God is able to truly, Jesus as God is truly able to bring me peace. Like that's the first way I met him, and I've never been the same since. So it's been a wild ride. It's been, man, I met him at 15. It's been literally 20 years since just
Wow.
like, yeah, meeting him, learning about who he is, and then wanting to do music, and then him saying, no, put it down. And I'm like, oh, wow. And I was 18 when he said, put it down. And I was like, okay. And I was like, I'm ready to become whatever the Lord wants me to become, a doctor, a lawyer, whatever, God, I'll do it. And then the Lord, like 6 months later, was like, actually pick it up. It was a test. And I was like, okay, I'm so glad I passed. Yeah. And then now, to be like adulting or whatever and having gone through some rough years, like my 20s were so rough. Like, I don't know about anybody else, but they were like a roller coaster, like very high ups and very low downs. And you're trying to figure out who you are and how do you make money? How do you sustain yourself? Who are you apart from family and school? Like, who are you in the Lord? And so, all that, I'm like, okay, we did that with Jesus. Now we're like, kind of on the other side of that. And it's like fun to be here and to express that musically too. So yeah,
That's
that's where I'm
that's
at.
that's beautiful. And so have you always been musical?
Actually, yeah. I hate to say that because it sounds so like easy, but like I have been playing instruments and like doing music since I was like in fourth grade. So like I used to play, my first instrument was the clarinet. And then from there, I played that for like 8 years, which is like a nerdy instrument, but I love it. I like learned music, and then I always wanted to be a singer. And so, yeah, it's always just kind of been in my blood. My parents, they love like old school soul music and just all the varieties of music. So I've always grown up with music and doing it.
So when was that moment that it was like God meets music into like this beautiful calling? Tell us about that.
Yeah, I think that moment really came when I met him, to be honest. I was so excited and lit on fire to know that, like, because at the moment, so context, right? I'm 15. I am just starting high school. My parents are going through a divorce. Um, I am in shambles. I don't know what to do truly with my life. Like, I'm mad. I'm playing sports because my dad, he's an athlete. So we kind of like, some of us in the family took after him and we're like, okay, we're going to do this. And And then my dad's like leaving the family. And I'm like, yo, you signed me up for, he didn't sign me up, but like it felt like I'm
Yeah.
following your footsteps. You're just going to leave? Like, what? So I was really upset. And then I just met the Lord and I'm like, man, there's a God who cares about me, who is bringing peace in such a tumultuous time. I had to say something. And I've always been an expressive songwriter. Like, music to me has always been an outlet, healing, a way for me to express what I'm feeling in a moment. Mind you, my first song was like at the age of 8. I wrote like this country song about the weather. Like, so I've truly always expressed myself through music in the weirdest of ways sometimes. But yeah, so I just, in my mind, it was so natural for me to be like, I got to tell the world about Jesus or whoever will listen through music. And so, literally, when I turned 18, I left to college, went to Boston U, and I was like, I have to find someone who will record with me, like a producer, like somebody, anybody. And the Lord, I went to this random concert on a Tuesday night. I probably should have been at home studying, but like I went and I met this sound guy and I was actually bothering him. Looking back, I'm like, I think I was like bothering him. But he's super cool. We still know each other. His name is Felix. He's my producer to this day. And I go, hey, like, do you know anybody that produces music in Boston? And he was like, I produce music. He's also trying to mix the band, like, and he's like, I do that. And I was like, oh, cool. Can like we work together? And he was like, yeah. And I had no idea who he was, like how, like kind of music he produced. And luckily he was a Christian and he did like R&B, soul, hip hop music. And man, we've been working together since that moment. So first and only
So
true.
not random. So not random. It was ordained. You had to go to that concert that day. Absolutely,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
So was that before or after God told you like no, put the brakes on the whole music thing?
That was right before the Lord. Yeah. So, just timeline wise, I had met Felix. I'm like 18, Boston, just got to college. And then I go home for that summer and I'm like geeked. I'm like, I got all this new music. And the Lord was like, put it down. And I was like, whoa, that was unexpected, sir. Yeah. And then a few months later, like 4, 5, 6 months later, the Lord was like, okay, cool. Like the fact that you were willing to lay it down and never pick it up again, I can trust you with this.
Yeah,
So,
you're being obedient.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But what a test, right? Something that you love, something that's in you. Whoo, I
Oh
can,
man, I mean,
wow.
something you spent your life doing, like, so it's funny because people will be like, you're so talented, like the way you play the guitar, like it's just like God really gave you a gift. He did. But I also
What?
spend like 6 hours a day sometimes, like learning a part or learning how to play a new scale and those are things people don't see and that is what hurts. Like, man, Lord, you would allow me to spend so much of my life that would be feel like it's wasted and just be
Mhm.
like, no, put it down. So yeah, it felt hurtful at the moment. So, but
Sure.
we're past it, thank God. Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, thank goodness. And so when you finally get the green light, the heavenly green light to start making your music, and you already know Felix, how do you start making? And like I was totally like going through your IG and looking at all your videos, and I was telling my daughter, I was like, listen to this, and she's like, she sounds amazing, mom.
Oh.
So like I was like, yeah, she's really talented. So tell me, what that journey was like after you got the green light.
Yeah. Honestly, like I said, music's always been very expressive for me. So, like my journey, my process in that moment, which is kind of like developed over the years, but in that moment, I'm learning the Bible. I'm obsessed. I'm like reading the Bible at night. My roommate's like, "Hey, Martay, like, yo, I'm trying to go to sleep. It's 2 a.m." I'm like, "No, I'm just like stuck in like this one book of the Bible. I can't get past it because I'm just in love with it." And so, yeah, I'm reading the Bible and then I'm like certain themes are sticking out to me and striking my heart and I'm writing songs and actually someone's trying to call not right now but actually a guy at church he produced beats and he had told me because I was like super outspoken like hey guys I want to make music. He's like hey I make beats like let me know if you want any and I was like well that's really kind and also sketchy like when someone just gives you things, I
What's the
don't know
deal?
really bad. This could be bad. But they were really good. And I remember one of the first beats, which was one of my first songs ever, had this like husky sounding guy on it. And it went like, hey, hey, like this deep voice. And I heard it and I was like, whoa, like the beat is cool, but that's different. And the girl called Hey Hey. I just like songs, I would hear a beat and songs would just come to me. And the scripture I was reading at the time would influence like these just like moments of a song coming to me. So yeah, Hey Hey was my first song, and then they just kept coming and coming and coming. So
That is awesome. And so I want to get to where you are now a little bit later. But before we do that,
hmm.
I saw your announcement that you were pregnant. And a little bit like about the story that led up to that, right? And so you said that you had given your youth to the Lord, and now He's kind of redeeming you. So can you tell us a little bit about your youth journey and how you devoted your life to God then?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So the it's absolutely right. I say that because I wasn't quite sure if you can ask the Lord for something, but there's no guarantees in following him. Like your life is his, he does what he wants with it. And there's a lot of people, like I read the Bible in Hebrews, right? Like it's called the Hall of Fame, Hebrews Hall of Fame, for all these believers who had such grandiose visions and dreams that the Lord actually gave a lot of them those dreams, and they never came to pass in those people's lifetimes. So, I knew that I just reading the Bible as a young Christian, I knew if I give my life to him, I'm going to have all these wonderful benefits that just naturally come with knowing him, but like I might not get to live the life that I thought I would live. And I mean, without a doubt, that's absolutely true. And my life actually has been better than I think I could have ever dreamed, which is like a testament to how great God is. But yeah, I spent most of my 20s, like the the primary part of my 20s, the beginning, I was recording music. I graduated college, and then I literally toured with other musicians that love the Lord with a ministry in Nashville for like 4 or 5 years of my life. Like I
Wow.
mean, imagine my mother, right? Like I went to Boston U, I got a business degree, I paid all this money and came out in debt, to be honest. But and she's like, yo, you are so smart. You have a degree. You could go make a lot of money. I don't understand why you are on the road making nothing. Like, we were not charging people. Like, if people wanted to give to us, they could. Like, I wasn't even charging for my CDs. Like, I just felt led in that season. I'm going to go like an evangelist with my music as a tool and preach the gospel. I did it for 4 or 5 years of my life. And I was like, all right. And I did not put it down until the Lord said, you're done. And so when he said I was done, I went back home to my mom's house and I lived with her. And my other friends were like, I'm buying my first house right now. I'm getting married. My eyes were so focused on just, Jesus, what do you want me to do? There was no mate in sight. There was no house in sight, no job. And so, yeah, I think following him was, I had some of the most anointed and amazing moments of my life, but yet like some of the deepest sorrow and pain, like are do you care about me, Lord? Like I'm going through this. I'm giving you everything. Please don't forget about me. So that became like a constant prayer. So to be like 10 years later, like after my first 5 years of my 20s doing that, the Lord called me to Kansas City and I became a part of this house of prayer out here. And again, not getting paid, part of a full-time worship team. So I'm doing like 6, 7 sets a week that are 2 hours long, a singer out of many. Like it's nobody's show. It's like you're just really giving your life to the Lord. And it was based on like just King David's tabernacle and how he basically had like musicians that had three things. They were prophetic, meaning they knew the word of God and they could sing it. They were highly skilled and they knew the events of the day. And so recreating this modern day, I'm buying into the vision. I love the Lord. He has me there. I'm like, Lord, I am now entering my 30s. Like I'm still young, Lord. Like truly, like you get a little finer in your youngness, but you're still young. And I'm like, what is it? Like, please don't forget about me. So now a few years later, like within the span of 2 years, my therapist, who's been so kind to me, she's like, yo, Martay, if you are overwhelmed, I can totally understand why. Like in less than 2 years, the Lord has brought you a husband. You are building a house and you're getting married, or not married. You're having a baby, and I'm like, yeah, I'm
It's a
overwhelmed.
lot. Yeah.
Goodness, yeah. So yeah, he doesn't forget about us. It's just do you trust him even when you don't have a promise? So
Right. That's so powerful. And And was it, you were talking about how your 20s were kind of difficult, kind of like a very roller coaster type situation. And was that because there was like a FOMO going on where you were serving the Lord? Like, what else is there? Or were there like other unresolved issues that you were having that made it so hard for your 20s?
Yeah, I think the 20s were hard for me simply because I had deep-seated dreams that I was not able to pursue if I was pursuing the Lord. And it was just like, it was just so black and white to me. Like, God, I really see myself doing this. I've seen myself doing music on a high level since I was like 12. You know what I mean? Like, and
Hmm.
I'm not doing that. Also, like, I see myself with a husband. I have no clue where this man is. You know what I mean? Just these deeply rooted dreams. And I would pray, like, God, if you don't want me to have this dream, take it away. Like, take it away. I don't want to even stress about it. And he didn't, you know? And so I'm like, all right, I'm always conflicted. Like, okay, I'm gonna serve you because I love you. You're the biggest love of my life. But what is it? You know? So
Yeah. And
yeah,
so how did you, because I feel like there's a lot of angst when you are Christian and single.
yeah,
Because, and especially if you're in ministry, like, okay, God, I'm serving you, I'm giving you all this stuff. Where's my man? And where's my babies? You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
And
yeah.
so how did you just kind of balance that out? And how did you kind of stay centered on your mission and not let that distract you so much?
I think it really is. I mean, it's not easy. First of all, let's just start there. Like, I think
Mhm.
we have to stop over, or no one has stopped doing anything, but I would hope that as a church, as a whole, we would stop devaluing people's pain and try to like kind of put some frosting on it and say, it's all good. Like, it's just He's got you, and let's move on. Like, let's move past your pain, you know? And I think the reality is that it's super painful, like to be in those moments where you want something so bad and yet you have no clue if it's going to happen for you. And I think a lot of us have been there. For me, I think just truly falling in love with the Lord and realizing at the end of the day, I have won in my life if I love him more than when I started. Like everything is unto that. And I think if you can, you don't wake up always feeling that way, but like truly, if you can always kind of like guide yourself back to like that focal point of like, hey, like me driving this car, like I hope that I could bless people with it and I could look at this car as a way that I have loved Jesus more than when I started, And I know that sounds stupid and very elementary and like, okay, Martay, you're going a little far, but am I? You know what I mean? Like, is it too far? I think that's what life is about. It's just like whatever he gives me, wherever he puts me, how do I use that unto his glory and provoke a love in myself that goes way beyond when I started that job or when I had that thing. And so yeah, just keeping that the main thing. But yeah, it wasn't always easy. Yeah.
I can't imagine. I got married when I was 19. So I
Um,
kind of always known my husband, you know. So but I cannot imagine like that void in my life. And so I can't even imagine, but I'm so thankful that you were able to navigate through that because I feel like that could also lead to a lot of bitterness, right? If God doesn't answer your prayers or if he doesn't answer your prayers when you think you should answer them.
yeah.
So now you're in this beautiful season. You have
Yeah.
your husband and your house. And so you met him once you got to where the Lord led you next. So tell us about that.
Yeah, Kansas City. I mean, I think people look at me and my husband and they often are like, well, how'd you guys meet? And their eyes get all like bushy-eyed and bright-eyed and they're like expecting this like very spiritual story. And I just love how God works through like the very practical things. Because me and my husband, we met on Facebook dating. And what's funny, Jay, is that the Lord met me in a time of prayer. Like it was a super actually intense experience, which, he doesn't always need an intense experience to reach people, but I'm a little knucklehead sometimes. So he's like, yo, I got to come through, wake you up in the night and all this stuff. And so long story as short as possible, the Lord really spoke to me and he told me to get on Facebook dating, which I thought was very sketchy. And I mean, probably like to be honest, if we're being honest, no, if you're from Facebook and you're watching this, I'm so sorry, but it's creepy sometimes. So I was on there and I actually met my husband again because I had met him on a different app. But for some reason, my heart was just ready, and was seeing things a little bit differently in life, and the Lord had to kind of prune me in the dating sense, and like kind of readjust my expectations. And I met him and I was like, yo, I just feel like I need to give this guy a shot. And I did. And it's kind of been like fast forward since then. And he's such a great guy. We're yin and yang 100%. We both love the Lord. But I'm like the worship leader one. The one, if we're going to church, a good picture of us is like Carlos, my husband, is in the back and he's just like absorbing the Lord. Not a lot of words. He's not going to be shouting like with the arms up. Me, I'm literally leading the worship team, like screaming, and I'm just like totally different ways that we experience God often, and it's just really cool. Like, and he's very steady in his character and who he is, and that's like one tip I would give someone. And constantly preach. I'm like, hey, someone can be very fiery in front of a crowd while they preach or whatever, but like, how do they talk about people when they're done with their job, and how do they, tip the waiter and talk about the waiter, it's like those things show character that you can't create, you know what I mean? So,
That's wonderful. And I'm so happy for you, by the way, on your pregnancy and your marriage and your house. But going back to your music, so how would you describe your music? I feel like there's some elements of like classic worship, but kind of updated. The beats a little different, the vocals are a little different, but it's still very authentic worship music. Tell us, how would you describe your music?
man, yeah. Man, I'm a lover of the art of music. Like, and I think that's something I don't want to die in our generation is there's not as many artists as I would love to see, my personal opinion, who just like you can tell they love music and they fused with this with that and they're trying this new thing. There's a lot of people that want to do it for the limelight, and I'm like, man, I just wish you loved music and you loved God and just would fuse the two together. It'd be just like wild. So I think that's just what I'm a product of. Like I grew up loving very much soul, R&B, and growing up in a household that just loved any kind of music. And then you know, I started listening to worship music as I came to know the Lord. And when there wasn't a lot of variations like we have now. Like music has, in the Christian realm, has just grown so much. It's incredible. There's artists out here that are killing it. And so that's exciting. But yeah, I can't help it. I have a natural inclination to like worship, and then coming to Kansas City and being a worship director leader for like many years now, I'm just kind of like it's just so hard for me not to do that. So like that's a realm that I just can't shut off. But at the same time, I love good music. And so like my heart is like funk, R&B, soul with a soulful vocal. Like that's always going to be me. I might dabble a little bit. You'll hear me on an EDM track or a rock track, whatever, but like soul, R&B, funk, my cup of tea, like 100% with the Lord in it, like we're done. Period.
I love it. I thought it was so refreshing, and I hear a lot of music, of course, working with Holy Culture. But it's the perfect blend of like soul worship with like something special Martay in it. And
Thank
like
you.
yours is what was it? I really love you, or I truly love you, or gosh,
Oh, was it I Really Miss You? Was that it?
maybe I
Like that.
think so. It had like a ILU something on the cover of it.
Oh, I love you. I do. Yeah.
I love you, I do that one. That
Yeah.
one went to the very top of my playlist, and I was like, that song is boss. I love it.
Thank
Um,
you.
so what does your music look now, or do you have a plan now that you are welcoming a little one into your family? Tell us about that.
Yeah, it's wild because I'm like, Lord, should I stop real quick or should we keep going? Like it's like we're like in such a like crazy whirlwind of a transitional season on so many levels. But I feel compelled to keep producing music and doing music because it really truly gets me through. And then secondary, I think it helps others, which is like wild. People don't think about it like that, but that's just how it's always been. So for me right now, I am just really going back to my roots. I'm having fun. I'm creating music that moves me, and hopefully it'll move to others in just like the same kind of realm. Like music that's fun in its instrumentation, but then also like reminds people to like look to the Lord. Like, and telling a story. I'm a storyteller at heart. So I always pray that my story, whether how intense it is at a moment or not intense or fun it is, will just always lead people back to who the Lord is. And so that's what I'm trying to do in this season. So a lot of funk, a lot of R&B, a lot of collaborations because I just miss it. I miss music, collaborating with others. So that's where we're going in this next season.
Nice. Do you have a wish list for people that you would like your dream collaboration list?
Yeah, I think about this all the time. And I'm like, Lord, I don't know if this could ever happen, but I do really, this is so random. So Jay, please don't judge me and anybody else. I dream about collaborating with Carlos Santana. He is a phenomenal guitarist.
Guitarist. Yeah, he's amazing.
I'm
He's a
a
legend.
guitarist. I have like all my guitars behind me. And he's just phenomenal. And so much respect for him. And then I just love seeing indie artists like not on a label, really doing their thing. And one that I really respect, he's not like overtly Christian by any means, but he has just such a good message in his music for people to like be about other humans and all of that. So Macklemore, I think he's just like a really cool guy. And I'm like, Macklemore, I really respect you. Like, you're a cool
Yeah,
person. But I do have some collaborations in the works with like some people that are in the Christian realm that are like so cool. So I'm excited about those. Yeah.
that's that's wonderful. So in the last couple of minutes, tell our audience where they can find you, where they can stream your music.
Yeah, you can find me, Martay Music, on anything. So my main platforms, I love YouTube. So that's where you're gonna find all the stuff, all the juicy stuff. But I'm on Spotify. I'm on, if you have Apple Music, I'm on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, like literally everything. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Martay, for joining us. And if you have not checked out Martay's music, do that right now. You are missing out.